Alright, time to talk about the good stuff. If there's one very big positive I can give this game, it's the music. Like the first game, the music is just absolutely great, fun, and catchy to listen to. But unfortunately, a problem that a lot of video game soundtracks have, getting a physical copy of Killer Instinct Gold's soundtrack is pretty rare and hard to find. But aside from that, the soundtrack is still absolutely great. Killer Instinct's music ranges from rock, pop, techno, metal, and more. My favorite tracks in the game would have to be Fulgors, Orchids, Jagos, Combos, and Gargoses. I also really like this game's training modes, which help show and teach players how to do combo breakers, special moves, and more, which is pretty helpful because if you think about it, Killer Instinct is kind of a complicated fighting game to be perfectly honest, so I really do like the training modes. The game has a lot of colors to choose from for the characters, and even more colors to choose from if you put a cheat code in, where you can have black, white, gold, and even completely shadowed. There's also this one tiny little thing in the game that I just absolutely love and it cracks me up. Huh, who would have thought that Spinal could sort of moonwalk like Michael Jackson? I love it. Alright, that's enough of the good stuff, time to get to the problems now. Now, because all the stages in Killer Instinct Gold are in full 3D, sometimes the camera can just be absolutely awful and even weird sometimes. But I understand what Rare was trying to do. They were trying to give players a more arcade kind of feel to the game, because like I said, some of the stages in the arcade game were in full 3D. So, credit where credit is due, but the camera is still kind of bad. And there will be times, and I swear, there will be times where you can't really see anything because part of the stage is blocking the camera so you can't really tell what's going on. They could have done a much better job with the camera, but that's just me. Now it's time to talk a bit more about the No Mercy moves, and I'm just gonna be flat out honest, I am simply not a fan how you can do the No Mercy moves in this game. You can do a No Mercy move whenever the opponent's health is right, and I am just simply not a fan of that idea, because it can pretty much lead to some cheap and unfair deaths by the computer. Now, you can block the No Mercy moves if you react fast enough, but sooner or later, you are going to die by the computer by the No Mercy moves, because, one, because they're doing a combo on you and decide to do an ultimate combo on you, or two, because you didn't react fast enough again. And as an added bonus, you'll probably have a couple of WTF moments when a character's doing a No Mercy move and be like, wait, how am I even still alive? Or, wait, how did that even kill me? In the first game, once you take all the opponent's health away, they give you a couple of seconds to pull off the finishing move, Mortal Kombat style. I prefer to have the No Mercy moves that way than have the computer be absolutely cheap with the No Mercy moves and spam it whenever they can. I'm looking at you, Jago and Tusk. Oh yeah, speaking of Tusk, and I'm being dead honest with this story. Back in the day when I used to play this game when I was younger, this guy would constantly, and I mean he would always use and spam his fireball finishing move and always kill me. This guy used to give me so much trouble as a kid, and he still kind of gives me trouble now because he's so cheap. Especially, he used to be so cheap with his fireball finishing moves because he used to always spam it and kill me, and I used to be stuck on him for hours upon hours upon hours. And because of that, Tusk has pretty much become my least favorite Killer Instinct character, and one of my most hated characters in video games in general, and I'm not really looking forward to seeing him return in Killer Instinct 3 to be honest. But, that's just my opinion. If somebody out there likes the character, then that's just totally fine with me. Now, this next thing I'm going to talk about might be a nitpick, but I just have to say something about this. Now, once you take away all of Gargos' health, or if he has a little sliver of health left, you have to uppercut him and do the stage fatality on him, which I find is very unnecessary, and I don't think they should have done that in my opinion. Cause here's the thing, Gargos will not die. It doesn't matter how many times you beat the life out of this guy and all of his health is gone, he will not die unless you uppercut him and do his stage fatality on him. And if you don't know how to do an uppercut with the characters, you're pretty much just screwed and you can't beat the game. You didn't really have to do that with the first game with Idol, because Idol basically fell into a stage fatality for you. And going back to the arcade version again, you could also just let Idol die by just having him have his heads explode. So why not give players an option of killing Gargos 2 different ways? It couldn't have been that hard. Same time, I also think that Gargos just doesn't look as cool as Idol. I mean, just look at Idol. He's a 2-headed Cyclops with goat legs and a spiked bat. You can't beat that in my opinion. I'll be honest, the graphics in the game are kind of ugly and blurry looking, to be honest. And some of the stages don't even look like they were fully complete. I mean, look at that! And look at the waterfall in Jago's stage. Is that supposed to be ice or water? And the character sprites in-game kind of look blurry looking for some reason. Now, since this is one of the first Nintendo 64 games ever made, right next to Super Mario 64, I'll cut the graphics a break, and probably for the time, they probably weren't that bad. Same time, I've seen some pretty bad games on the Nintendo 64 that have much worse graphics than KI Gold. Now, one thing I will give the arcade version, Killer Instinct 2, some credit, is that the arcade version had multiple endings, depending how you beat a certain character, or characters. But with Killer Instinct Gold on the Nintendo 64, there are no multiple endings, and what Rare decided to do is get the full endings to the characters. You have to play the game on the hardest modes to get the full endings to the characters, which is kind of lame in my opinion. Same time, why is the game called Killer Instinct Gold to begin with? It's called Killer Instinct 2 in the arcade, so why call it Killer Instinct Gold on the console? Now yes, I do know that the characters in the game all have colors where they can be gold, but if you're gonna call the game Killer Instinct Gold, wouldn't it also make sense to also make the Killer Instinct Gold cartridge in gold as well? I mean, kind of like how they made the first game in a black cartridge. But hey, I'm just nitpicking once again. And last but not least, the number one big problem that some Killer Instinct fans, myself included, have with this game is there being no Sindar, no Riptor, and no Chief Thunder. And I'm not really too crazy about the 3 new characters in this game, to be honest. This is also the exact same problem I had with Killer Instinct on the Game Boy, with there being no Sindar or Riptor. Now some of you are probably saying, well, why was Chief Thunder left out? He was in the Game Boy version, and he did defeat Spinal in the first tournament, so why was he left out? Well, from what I've heard from people and from Rare themselves, Chief Thunder's appearance and his fighting style from the first game were borderline racist, and he was just a stereotype of Native Americans. Yeah, this is also the reason why when they brought him back for Killer Instinct 3, they did not bring back Thunder's classic look from the first game at all, and just decided to give him a brand new classic look altogether. Now, one of the other reasons why I think Rare decided to leave Chief Thunder out of the second game is because, if you think about it, a lot of fighting games back then, and probably still now, always have a Native American and a boxing character, and I think that's also one of the reasons why they redesigned TJ Combo for the second game. And don't get me wrong, I like Chief Thunder. He's kind of a cool character, and I find his backstory to be interesting, and he does have his fans, but he's also one of the most controversial characters in the Killer Instinct series, so I can't really blame Rare for leaving him out. But what I can blame Rare for is leaving out 2 big fan favorites from the first game, especially Sindar in my opinion. He was my favorite character as a kid, and he was the sole reason why I bought this game back in 2005. And when I found out he was not in the game along with Riptor, it was like a slap to the face. It's like having a Street Fighter game without Vega, or a Tekken game without King, or a Mortal Kombat game without Scorpion. Oh wait, they did do that once, and I did not like it. At all. And yes, I do know that Sindar and Riptor died in the storyline, but I say BS to that. I mean, just look at Mortal Kombat again. All the characters in that series die in the games and die in the storylines, but they always come back alive and well in the next games. Rare shouldn't have killed off Sindar and Riptor, and I think that was a very, very, very bad idea in my opinion. Same time, if you read the Killer Instinct comic books, Ultratech could pretty much clone Riptors whenever they wanted, and also change the color of the Riptor when they're cloning it. And I understand what Rare was trying to do. They were trying to add new characters to the series and also have more female characters to choose from. And I'm all for having more female fighters in a fighting game, but when you take away 2 fan favorite characters and one of them being my all-time favorite, then I'm not really going to care about the new characters. But that's just me. Now, even though Sindar, Riptor, and Chief Thunder aren't in Killer Instinct 2/Gold, there are some little Easter eggs or little secrets of them in the game. Let's get the obvious one out of the way first. Just take a look at Jago's stage. It's so obviously a reference to Chief Thunder's stage from the first game. The only difference being, instead of being a bridge out in the Grand Canyon, this bridge is right next to a waterfall. And unlike Chief Thunder's bridge, you can knock the opponents off this bridge. Now let's take a look at one of Gargus's moves. He spits a fire-like flamethrower out of his mouth and he hurls it back up. I wonder where I've seen that move before. It's obviously Sindar's Infernal move from the first game. It even makes the fire-like sound effect just like Sindar. Now here's another Sindar Easter egg. Whenever a character gets burnt up or electrocuted to death from a No Mercy move, just take a look at their bodies. They basically reuse Sindar's body whenever a character is burnt up or electrified. Now for the last one. One of Tuska's No Mercy moves is that he can summon a giant dinosaur to come out of nowhere and eat his opponents. Now, just look at the dinosaur's head. Who does it look like? It's Riptor from the first Killer Instinct. All they did was just change the color of her head and eyes. Rare was going to port Killer Instinct 2 to the Super Nintendo, just like what they did with the first game, but due to the Nintendo 64 going to be released very soon, Rare decided to never release the game, but I have heard that they did complete and finish the game, they just never released it. And to this day, there hasn't been any footage or screenshots of what Killer Instinct 2 looks or sounds like on the Super Nintendo, sadly. I've also heard that originally Killer Instinct Gold was going to be something like Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and have characters, stages, and music from both KI1 and KI2, but they decided to scrap that idea due to them not having enough time to do that. Final thoughts? Killer Instinct Gold in the end is an alright fighting game, but it does have its flaws. The game feels like it does take a couple of steps forward, with the combo system being much more faster and the music being great once more, but it also feels like it also takes a couple of steps back, with the new characters not being as interesting as the free old characters, and with the computer being absolutely cheap with the No Mercy moves. The easiest way to describe Killer Instinct 2/Gold in a nutshell, it's basically one of those love it or hate it sequels. You might love it, or you might hate it. And I used to hate this game a lot, and I mean a lot, back in the day. But over the years, as I went back to play the game from time to time again, my opinions on the game have slowly changed over the years. And it's really not that bad. It's an alright fighting game for the 64, but I still think the first game is better. Now, I could nitpick about some more things that I don't like that weird L-looking thing on Fulgor's chest. Seriously, why does he have that thing on his chest? But I'm not gonna do that because I don't need to overkill things. So in my opinion, I'm gonna give Killer Instinct Gold on the Nintendo 64 a 6 out of 10. With the title, it's an alright fighting game, but as a sequel to the first one, it's not as good. This is Conkeronine signing out. I hope you enjoyed the review, and thank you for watching.